before I read, I'm going to read from this, which is not out yet, but it's, I'm sure you all can hear me, right?
Yeah.
It's a small space. This book is called Massive, and something I wanted to say about it is that I feel like it's really like my first Inside the Castle book, because Platts, as I said, was done in 2008, and then I started writing Apparitions of the Living after that, and finished it in 2016. So it was like several years already before I started Inside the Castle and knew that I wanted to do something like that. So those two books were like, I'm not gonna say they're bad, but they're me maybe trying to see if I could fit in to something that was like not my own thing. But then working on this book was like after I started in 2016, after Trump was elected, and it's like the first Inside the Castle book that like I feel like is actually my Inside the Castle book, because I did not care. Like, I didn't think anyone was going to publish it. I knew I was going to publish it. I did not care like how it was going to be received, or like who would publish it for me or whatever. I was like, this is my thing. So in that way, it's really special to me, because it's like my first time being part of the club, even though I really, had been before that. But the book itself, just to kind of set up what I'm going to read, came out of a germ of an idea that I got from reading Joseph Brodsky's essay on Osip Mandelstam and his lady friend poets, which Frank can probably pronounce all of them better than I can. But I had kind of had this idea of writing a book about him and Anna Akhmatova and his wife Nadezhda, and had this vision of them all living in a suburban house together north of Atlanta. It's basically my wife's mom's house, my mother-in-law's house. And then after Trump was elected, I started reading more about Mandelstam and like the effect of Stalinist policies and tyranny on his life, and he was exiled, and decided to kind of build a world around the lives of these poets, these Russian poets, and it just kind of spiraled out of control. I saw it as being like a 1-year project, and it turned into a 7-year project. And it was, let's see, I don't want to like belabor it too much, but basically, if you look at the book, it's meant to be not able to be read. So like, or you can read it, but you have to read it for the rest of your life, because every page can be read an infinite number of ways. So basically, there's a through text that then has text inserted into it, and then the through text is text wrapped around that text. So, and each insertion has a justification syntax, so it's either justified left or right, or center or full, and so it creates these really fun chasms in the page and everything. It's kind of like this granite texture of letters and words and stuff, and it's organized in 3 columns. So basically, your eye is not able to read the way you normally read a book, and that was really an exciting project for me, because as I got older and was unable to focus and concentrate very much, I found myself reading by like just kind of looking around the page. So this really was reproducing that as an experience for people. But another aspect that somehow emerged out of the writing research process was the idea that not only was the text like infinitely readable, but that none of what was happening in the text was fixed in time relative to anything else. So all of the text, I gave myself a constraint of not using any word that was not present continuous tense, so like with ing at the end. So if you were to say there was paint on the wall, you can't say that because that's not a verb. I mean, it's a noun, but it's not the verb form that has the ing, so you have to say there was pigmentation on the wall, or you can't say was either, so. So it became a game, and it ended up with like tons of jargon and weird phrasings of things, and then like started reading about Mandelstone's fascination with Dante, so there became all this like Italian stuff interjected into it, and then I love Italian horror movies, and so then it just like it became a dumping ground for me to just like sit down and work, and like spent 3 days typing out a list of all the Emmanuel movies for some reason, and those are in here. Because, you know, it's just like this massive expanding world that I wanted to build around these people. So yeah, and it'll be out in December. And if I die before then, it'll be available on Amazon. So it's already put in their system, so you can buy it after I die. So I actually made some music to accompany my reading. Oh, I gotta go under here. There we go. I've never done this before, so I can just start anywhere I want. Deciduous bosque, firm, ashy, and asphalt branching in the crosswalk, massive to massive. I am laboring at sitting. Auto transport is diligently jostling. The omnidirectional track network and the overhead cable system is inheriting the will of the pantograph. Bushy top emu, South Island snipe. Nadia's fingers short and strong and masculine, aching in collation. But pentagons at the enclosing 5 equilateral pentagram of 5 isosceles that is in her hand-holding. The limbs, construction of a vector between a node J and a node A in distinct block matrices with vague dry brush. The asphalt revealingly. Gallery of natural productivity. Director Lawrence Mayer is on an exploratory excavation with dust brush and twilight through the ajar window alluring, speaking with the topsoil, where his shave around is mohawking into a ponytail. Aeration that is not listening is transmitting vague visages of deeper toward the heavier and the greater silent erosion, devourment, distant, downward, insufferable rituals, flesh-bound, pain in lieu of the garment, contradiction inherent in cultural productions, peristalsis, anal tone, a fist, snapping, slippingly, touching, recognizably between my legs, crossing my forearms over my breast resting against my east wind and west wind, eyelids cloaking, euloglossitis, encountering a flea in my hair, and pushing it through the spatial black and plowing emptiness of my virtual skull. Moment of silent contemplation. Are you pushy? I am spying a polygon in the morassy, cumuliform, and stratiform evaporating blackness. Lime, chalky, or body in the arduous, calcareous sparring ascent of the granite stairway, increasingly difficult. Touching me is allowable, but I've no sensation. Touching her, only vision. If my retinas are receiving light information, light is also a corpse. Dark, gray, solid, plain weave flannel across my thighs. Pre-surgery manifold has 2 asymptotic regions, ghosts or ghostly perceptions. The Selps mortar is ancient fountain, differing, A worker is tavern, JR spray foam, measuring information from the platter is heaping the layers of compulsion upon him with the inescapability and finger spreading. A series of omens and entrapments, right hand across my interminable failure of obstruction. Sonal atoms, the grain of the glisson and the grainlet of the kernel. Triangle half missing. Assistance with the pump car dormant against its landings on his stove. Stop blocks even further up the valley than the municipal center place. Dry blood on my esplay shirt front. Drill hammer. Gingivoplasty. Heptagrams of various rouges across sidewalls calling upon her is proliferating the self into the entirety of the mesh block. Oppressive. Delirium. Opening into the foyer under a gravitational center point. Behind me, hydraulically groaning between the cab, the pressure of air pressure, pushing from above to seeping below the ceiling, a pegboard quaking. 16 items of anatomical curiosity to one quantity of goat milking machinery. Seismosaurus, Halorum, Cedarosaurus, White Stophe, Deinherosaurus, Lorenhansis. I am not recognizing any of the appellations. I am suspicious of guidance. I am striving for eternal congruency only, wholeness. I am not oppositional to defending my decisions, but not simply because someone is needing bureaucratic desires of rote. Are you writing this article? Your personal iciness? Vendetta? What about the poem, Nadia? You are finding enjoyment in the audience, are you not? No. What awareness and grid coordinates are you cultivating with your laborers? Pay-right is insidious, recursive. Compulsions and proclivities are sucking pebbles. Oxide of gold, gold, sea salt of gold, ulcerations are devouring his gastrointestinal tract. I'm uncertain, although it is apropos that the identity of such a filthy swine of a river valley full of fraudulent foxes, shaking onto the guillotine of my small ramekin of rancid twice and bisection of the signature sheet wrinkles, nothing but the signature of sheet wrinkles in the palate, fleas vaulting their readouts or wearing the layman, the rondelle of 4 trompettes, very old town of Hamlin, meek in speech, strict, staunch, big. The concrete of the basilica is endlessly curing, collecting the compositional contraptions of Rococo plenitude into the platina is reduction of eye points, platina, plumbum is galena, safe extraction of the gingerly replacing the containers surrounding the vacant shard of our refrigerator property, down the exterior staircase. The aorta, darkness of the grotto, toward the perspiration, cloudiness. The chilly mass of the beaker in my palm is diluting the pesticide into a frothing plastic flea litter. Orangeville 15.08. Hammer smashing. Visage. Unreasonable flatness of expiring consciousness is so locally aspectless that the gazing is surveying across the uniformly panoramic nasal bone of the nose. Through reorientation of gravity, the elevation of the basilica is solid state. Nose is the functioning world XY plane. Surface tension is erecting a glistening teardrop voxel, and the left hand of the vista is magnifying and inverting the image of the pointer fingernail erecthion. Eye, releasing whiteout, black velvet buttress. I am quite comfortable, neaten with this self-conscious source material, thrashing, pulverizing, atypical, pachycladus, each of your precious kaputniks, beautiful. My benevolence is no relation to the recompense, but for imagination of latent nature are producing artificial manifestations similar to the natural abundance, complacence, damask, laundry, gateway for your ingression, 10.14 on the rear, accessible only through the forest. So you are not symmetrical, dimensionally malleable, in the sequentiality of their unfolding in concurrence with downbeat landmarks and events. The closet woman is forceful, connotation of loss. I've no way baking into the most agnostic as a cultural oblong pebble. The acceptance of the event is inescapably providential, whilst the daemon is making the unmistakable character of a Tantalus full of ashlar. Third axiom is selective abstinence from the foods that are most pleasurable to the bodily consciousness. Mouth parts in wide whiteness, not shadow casting. During meals of head cheese, sour pickles, rye crackers, including yeast, wine, fenugreek, chicken broth, or anything else delightful. Inscribing fissuring along a great circle, a czar, a raja, on raja, radus, emptiness. I am of the tremendous quantity of avoidance, belief that it is of enmeshment, not quantifiable coalescence, is requiring passive swarmings of activities. The stench of my loathing is filling your throat with pus, is draining from out your nose, uncontrollable and rampant beneath the hopeful white face paint. Dry friction, dermis is inescapable. Electrical counter, documentation, vibration, abominable devourment. Subright spinning St. Ignatius of Loyola, lambda by E, faciabat, syntactical domain, ignorance of theft. Louis Armand, the Czech novelist. Writing is all collogic, and all long peregrinations across their spines with their legs splaying vertically, white legs fissuring against the rusty bed surface of the Hansen, is sculpting the a posteriori meaning of the word. Devotees of Zangief and the natural origins of his laboriousness are recreating the situation and context. His original sociogeometric epiphanies, wrinklings, the crepey posterior of the knuckles, and foldings and blotchings and follicles and calluses and freckles, and pyrite is cyanose and anoxic. Lafayette, Ronald Hubbard. Ram Krishnananda, Tim Herrick. The young and the resoundingly evil. A gallery dwelling, doors are ajar. Hume Parkinson. Alexander Troshy. Detailing the female consciousness, sitting in vigil, death watch, tiptoeing through the dwelling of the surroundings such that the orgasm of consciousness, the polyphonic latitude, the latitude of gruesome menace, catastrophic spalling of headers of auto trailers colliding with the facade of Mondo topless black snake. Faster pussycat homicide, homicide, the inferno, the satanic countries and cities are women of Titfield, beyond the valley of the dolls, super vixens, Ernest Hemingway, Civil Code. Pushkin on a necklace. Pushkin and Dante with the same lips are gay and red. Geometry and proportional problems for fitting into the pulverization basin of the manual hammer mill. Houseflies swarming on gooseberries. Blinding paper bits from happy eyelids. Antichrist. Rogue Goldie calling upon hateful alpinist. A person thinking only about walling off and not bridging is not an acceptable administrator. Confiscation of 368 firearms and 357 grenades and 37 knives. Water column, turning the lake a brilliantly artificial emerald green from surrounding promontories in the infinitely reducible incrementality of it. Scalar modules. childhood and adulthood and senescence, illness and vitality and sleep, satiation, drudgery, paranoia, inversion, indecision, anguish, the incomparable and telltale bulging eyes, in combination with the sake of argument upon the pure discarnate fixation of the devotional as activating a mysterious resonance undetectable to human ear or any readily available instrumentation. 100 quantity crates of tarragon soda to 424,394 quantity tablets of azithromycin. Brownish smoke plume is turning white. I am the slayer. Blood is my hobby. The weak are loathsome. Destruction of the weak. Immersion in the puissance of evil. Lavoisier is describing the cellularity of the masking of our perceptions. Perceptions, head crush, pyramidal photomapping for the preservation of aproprioses, the execution of the paraphosis, the atlas of abstracted parallelepiped, elements and abstracted prepupal classifications, the discovery of a city nearly unregisterable, meandering escalation of equatorial narrowing alleyways, hysterical, impulsive, zonular, impetuous, voluntary, fiery, catodromous, brackish tristing. Ben Richards is flying an astrogyro into the pinnacle of the Mendoyance. The underzone is characterizable as rural with the right-hand construction at the brake-like Orient wildlife, running, flinging toward the underzone, and grass shoulder. I am Sergei Efron. The clammy aroma of the possession, the lime, and an ill-lit alcove into a series of chambers is unfolding through a wide doorway perpendicular to red styrofoam insulation and sloping floor, and the red boundary and spalling flecks of pigmentation into disturbance of sweaty hairs at the bottom of the neck, where red vapor and superimposition, oversplatter and rasping is gurgling across the floor into the drained body of blackness, swaddling, forming anew. New clothes, new hair, new stoic smile, new proud collarbone, straight pin me to velvet stretching across foam cord, an entire civilization with the goal of capturing me in a glass reliquary, return to sender from the transit camp. Death of the vanilla parrot, the broadbill, dark bloom parrot, crystals with side plane, 12 crystals, sill drum, bullet crystals, because only proof of existence is subfossil bones and a denial of death, death of the addressee, death of touristic diary entry by recipient. John Trefry, non finito, William Finley, death of the reader is death.